Hello everyone. So onward we go. I'm staying in on a beautiful afternoon to get this dang thing out. Not that it isn't a riot, I just have such a backlog of stuff I want to make. Anyhow, where we left off last video in the cognitive functional analysis of the interview with Sallie, the INTJ, and then a little bit in the last video in that representing that interview with her INFP friend CJ. I discussed what was in video 2, and now I'm going to start with talking about what went on in video 3 of this series. I thought that Sallie was really, as I mentioned in the interview itself, so I won't belabor this too much, but I think what Sallie was displaying a heck of a lot of that is very INTJ typical and very typical of a dominant introverted intuition working together with auxiliary extroverted thinking. Such could be said similarly of the type that has those two cognitive functions flip-flopped in ENTJ, also with dominant extroverted thinking and auxiliary introverted intuition. What you have when you have that combo is a very powerful ability in seeing possibilities, distant possibilities, and where you've got this beautiful marriage of pragmatism and strategic thinking meeting and objective analysis of things meeting with a pretty profound imaginative way of thinking and approaching problem solving. You see that in those two types, you often in its highest form, depending on if they've developed their functions or not, which is another matter, Just because you have the temperamental leaning doesn't mean necessarily that you have developed and excelled in the skills building that might be associated, that might be fueled by this, or not fueled, but guided, driven by, inspired by these temperamental leanings. Anyway, okay. So at the beginning of video 3, Sallie is talking about how, here she is in her early 60s, and how she is planning on where she wants to live for the end of life in the next 20 or 30 years. And she's thinking well ahead, and that is very, very typical of the NTJs. Not just them, but they really are known for that, and for good reason. And because they just kind of naturally do that, they just kind of tend that way. And then if the rest of the factors involved cooperate with that and support it, it really goes far. Yeah, and I can tell you too that she and CJ really impressed the crap out of me, because I am someone I own 4 bicycles. I love to cycle. I've done trips, I use it as transportation, and I also use it for recreation, biking for recreation, and I take trips with bikes too. So these two came up to my city to do a lot of biking. They have these beautiful machines as well. And they were out every day doing miles and miles and miles, and they were going distances that to me, I would consider like a pretty good ride, I wouldn't do it every day, and they were. It was really cool. So all this, all that to say so Sallie's in good shape, and she has, perhaps has other good reasons to think she's going to be around for a while. So she, so she's naturally thinking, okay, what do I want to do? And enjoying the planning process, right? That's what a lot of people who have are judgers, meaning they have an extroverted decision-making function somewhere in the top 2 positions of their cognitive function stack. So I think she's also showing, as she's here, where she's talking about thinking about where she wants to live, and talking about prioritizing social connectedness. She says she wants to be connected before she gets old. She wants to, I believe that what I got from the way she was saying what she was saying and what she said, that she's thinking both with her auxiliary TE there in terms of she sees immediately how practical it is, how useful it is to have neighbors that, that you're friendly with, and that you, and not just for the INTJ, not just for lovey-dove reasons, but because it's useful, it's helpful, to share your abilities and time and skill or whatever, and then you help them out when they need help, and then if you need help, they'll be at hand to help you with what you need. So I think she was naturally exercising her her NI long imagination and sort of deep pondering of possibilities and entertaining and looking for in a principled way for what's relevant to what she cares about, and then and that interests her, and then using the auxiliary TE to apply these good ideas and make them of benefit to herself and and when she's working and trying to help people she cares about, help them with their problems in a practical kind of way. I think she really does have that, seems to have that approach, and as a psychotherapist too. Anyway, back to this part. She was, I think too, that when she's talking about being more socially connected, I again, purely speculative, but I would guess that is, that hints at what theoretically would make sense is happening for her at the time of a lifespan that she's in, where she might, I think it might be sort of showing a bit of FI development, which is the tertiary function for INTJ. I think that it makes a lot of sense, and I know this does happen for a lot of INTJs, that when they get into midlife and then older, if they haven't recognized it yet, that's the time that they're most, more of them are more likely to begin to appreciate more than they probably haven't given it nearly as much thought before, but they start to consider, what the things that are associated with FI, and what are those things. Yes, it's about deep emotion, very intensely felt emotion, but that is kind of held back inside the self, and that you feel sort of almost when you have, I can say as a heavy FI user with it in the auxiliary position of my cognitive function stack, there certainly is a drive to kind of feel very private about one's feelings. And that certainly would be the case for most INTJs, because not only are they're introverts, so they have a tendency to be sort of private and kind of conservative in the literal sense of that word, of the amount of sort of interactional energy that they have. But they also it might be doubly so, because then they've got the FI down there, which is pretty intense. And again, like most INTJs, I've heard from INTJ viewers that have commented under my videos that, and I also have seen this, I've seen evidence of this in the INTJs I know in my life, face-to-face life, that they're feeling a lot more than almost anybody in their lives knows. They're feeling a lot more, but you're not going to get to see it. And the people that are going to get to see even a peak of it, particularly for the men because of the social roles that they're trained into, and is if you're their partner, probably, or like their best oldest friend, maybe, So it's something that is going on, and it's behind the scenes. There's at least a little flame of burning passion inside there in every INTJ, but they're not going to be quick to show you that, and there are all kinds of reasons. Anyhow, it would make sense that midlife and older, an INTJ will start thinking about more that's associated with introverted feeling, and some of those common priorities would be, again, like the deeper meaning that has to do with relatedness, that has to do with and also values. What do I really value? What do I stand for? Not that they wouldn't have been thinking about such things seriously before, but it's going to come to a greater prominence naturally, probably, in the case of many INTJs who are making any progress in maturing and developing in life on that kind of personal level. And so I think that's sort of thinking about the future and thinking about being socially connected. I think that FI might be playing into that a little bit of, recognizing, and also because of life circumstances as well, how important it is actually to have meaningful, deep relationships, maybe just with a few people, but that it's something that's worth your time. It's worth an investment. And again, like INTJ, the NTJs are really the TJs, but all four of them, but the NTJs especially, they're not, well, no, just the TJs period. Like they really do approach pretty much everything that they put any effort into. Just automatically, that's going to be top of mind for them is am I going to get a return on this investment? Like whether it's a relationship or it's a project or it's a learning a whole lot about a certain subject or whatever. Not that they never do anything that isn't totally utilitarian or that's totally can be applied and, obviously useful, but that is their natural sort of turn of mind.